I just saw this tweet recently of someone saying that to prevent war and conflict, we should have just given Vladimir Putin an NFT of Ukraine. That way, he could pretend like he owns it, even though he doesn't. And isn't that the whole point of NFTs? You will own nothing, but you're still happy about it. In all seriousness though, my thoughts and prayers do go out to the people of Ukraine. And I just want to say that the stock market has been acting crazy. It's been going up, then down, then back up again. For example, on Wednesday of last week, when the invasion took place, the stock market fell substantially. And by Thursday, just the next day, it started to recover. This is exactly what I said would happen in one of my last YouTube videos right before the invasion took place. Now, I'm not saying that to remind you that I'm some genius investor. I'm not trying to take credit for it. I just think it's fascinating that history from 200 years ago taught us something that is still relevant today. In 1810, Nathan Rothschild said, "To buy on the sound of cannons," meaning that it's probably a good time to buy on that day. And that's exactly what happened, which to me is just crazy that 200 years ago, that logic still applies today. Now, here's some really interesting data. The federal fund futures market, which you can think of as sort of like a casino where people gamble and speculate on what they think will happen to interest rates. In other words, the cost for banks to borrow money from other banks. Right now, that market is pricing in roughly an 80% chance that the Federal Reserve would increase rates by 0.25%. Now, just for context, earlier this month in February, the market was pricing in an 80% chance for 0.5% increase. So what does that mean? It means that inflation is most likely going to stay hot for quite a while this year before the Fed decides to step in and try to cool the economy down. And this kind of makes sense because considering how much uncertainty there is in the world right now, Papa Powell wants to play it safe and not crash the economy. Now, when you think about all these factors and day-to-day activities that change what happens to investing, it becomes really hard to keep up with it. I can't time the market. That's why I'm constantly investing for passive income even if there's a crash. Now, we're not officially in a crash yet. We're in what's called a correction, which is any time the stock market falls by 10% or more. A crash would be something like 10 to 20% or more. Now, right now, the stock market is somewhere around 8 to 9% in the negative, so we're not quite in the correction territory, but we were, so I'll just say we're in a correction. But guys like Jeremy Grantham, for example, who's considered this legendary investor, he says that we're gonna crash something like 43%, which is terrifying because that makes it the most significant crash, at least in my lifetime, bigger even than in 2008 when the market went down by 37%. So is that actually going to happen? I don't know, but I'll let you know my thoughts at the end of the video. In the meantime though, I think it'd be really cool to talk about how to make passive income in a crash, because now more than ever, cash flow is what matters most. This is, I think, the most important point, right? Because if stocks are falling, it's nice to still be able to make cash flow. That's what keeps investors invested in the markets. And this is a portfolio that I've built since 2015. I was saving roughly half of my $50,000 a year income, so every dollar that I make from this portfolio, I'm still reinvesting into itself. So let's revisit that strategy because I think it's super cool. I'm excited. Let's get right into it. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the passive income. So I figure it's a nice change of pace and talk about something positive when we're constantly talking about stock market crash this and crypto crash that. And today I wanted to keep it more lighthearted. So dividends and passive income, here we go. So if you've never seen my videos on dividends, dividends are monies that a company pays their shareholders just for holding on to the stock. You don't have to do anything special to the stock. You don't have to sell it. All you have to do is just hold on to it. Now, I've been doing this since 2015 when I made $2,657, and it was the proof of concept that I needed. Then I made almost $4 grand in 2016, almost 5.5 in 2017, which is when I quit my job and I stopped investing for a little bit. And in 2018, I made almost $6,000, and every single year after that, that number continues to grow with virtually no work on my part. Last year, in all of 2021, I earned a grand total of $9,813 in dividends. Now in my case, because I have so many stocks, I'm paid monthly, but more often than not, this happens quarterly or 4 times a year. Sometimes it happens monthly, sometimes it happens semi-annually, and sometimes annually. It does not matter how frequently the stock pays you because the amount will always be the same. Also, you don't have to buy individual stocks. You can buy an ETF, which is an exchange-traded fund fund, which is a collection of stocks that represent some specific thing. Like for example, one of my favorites is SPHD, which is a collection of 50 of the highest yielding dividend stocks that are also the least volatile, which means it gives me less of a heart attack. And it pays me monthly, which for obvious reasons is very convenient, roughly $30 a month. I have 208 shares at an average cost of $30.70, and it continuously grows. And what's awesome about this stock is that when the market goes up, it also goes up. But when the market goes down, it doesn't fall as hard. And here's an example. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Be Charitable. Now, the world is a really volatile place right now, and we don't know what's gonna happen. But chances are, if you've been watching my YouTube channel for a while now, hopefully you've been able to turn $1 into many hundreds of dollars. And one thing for sure that we know is coming up is tax season, and there's a big opportunity to give back. One of my favorite tools right now is Be Charitable. It's a nonprofit public charity with no shareholders, no investors, and the reason that I love them is because they give ordinary people the tools to give back like the 1%. Here are just some of the benefits. The first benefit is lowering our taxes, because if you ever wanted to donate your stocks or your crypto, you might have noticed you first have to sell it and convert it to cash. But the problem is that you get hit with capital gains taxes, which is not fun because that is money you could have donated instead. Be Charitable makes it easy for us to donate those assets because instead of selling them, we donate them and we get the market cash equivalent, at which point we can immediately take a taxable write-off and give it to our favorite cause. Now, if you don't want to give away the cash just yet, we can invest the balance of our funds in one of 3 different investment pools where we can let the money grow over time 100% tax-free. Once your fund has grown enough and you're ready to pick who you want to donate the money to, you can distribute that money all at once or over time depending on what works best for you and your charity, and there's a virtually limitless amount of charities to pick from. And if you don't see your favorite charity, you can just let the team know and they will add it to the list. I'm looking for 5,000 people to help get us to $10,000. Every single dollar that you donate, I will match 100% dollar for dollar. So if you ever wanted to help out my YouTube channel, instead just scan this QR code and let's do this thing together. Go to Be Charitable, sign up, it's 100% free. It is the fastest, smartest, most secure way to donate to your favorite nonprofits, especially those that are helping support what's going on in Ukraine. Thank you, Be Charitable, for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's get back to it. I don't know why dividend stocks are considered blue chip stocks. I feel like we should call them green chips, because check this out. SPHD, for example, in the last 3 months is up 5.2%. Now that's not that bad. But then it becomes amazing when you consider the fact that the S&P 500 is down 5.6%. So dividend stocks are actually going up in principal value, the amount we invested in them, in a time when the market is going down. Not only is it going up in principal value, but it's also paying us a monthly dividend payment every single time on top of that. And there's even a third way that they pay us more money in the form of dividend increases. This is when a company makes excess cash flow, it's making more money, and it wants to reward investors by giving them a higher payout. And here's an example. On January 26th, SPHD increased their dividends by 2.1%, which added $7.21 to my annual income, which I know doesn't sound like a lot. But then in February, on the 22nd, they increased again by 2.3%, adding another $7.75 to my annual income, which again, I know doesn't sound like a lot. But that extra $15 a year that I get to make is the equivalent of needing to invest $375 at 4%. Except that is money I didn't have to invest at all. That's money I made extra in just the last 2 months for holding on to the stock. And the best dividend stocks will continue to increase their payouts. Not at the rate of 2% per month, that would be insane. For example, SPHD sometimes increases by 0.5%, other times by as much as 11%. It averages out to be anywhere between 4 to 6% per year, which I'm happy with. And that is so important, especially in times like these, when everyone is talking about a recession or they're afraid of a market crash, because this keeps you invested, especially because the dividend yield adjusts. So if the price of the underlying equity, fancy word for stock, falls, then your yield will go up. And here's what I mean. If you bought a random stock like smash the like button for $100 a share and it was paying you 4% per year, you'd be making $4 per year. But if that stock fell by 50% down to $50 a share, then your dividend yield would double to 8%. That way, it's to make sure that the $50 you have still left invested would still pay you $4 per year. And that is how you can stay invested in the markets, because it makes it stress-free. And that's how I was able to stay invested for the last almost 10 years, because I knew that even if the price of my stocks went down, I would still be making passive income, assuming that the company was still profitable and growing. But no strategy is ever perfect, so here are some of the downsides. Of course, dividends are not real magic because you're not actually making free money from thin air. Or are you? Maybe you are. Or maybe this is just a YouTube video that took me way too long. Smash the like button. Dividend stocks do come at a price though. The price is that you pick magic as a career, and that's not good. No, the trade-off is that you have to pay taxes unnecessarily, right? In other words, anytime you earn dividend income, you have to pay taxes. Whereas investing in growth stocks that do not produce any dividends, you're growing, but you're not paying taxes on that growth because it's all on paper. But the cool side about dividends is that you can also make dividends tax-free, which doesn't make any sense because I just told you that it was forced taxation. Here's how that would work. If your income falls under $40,400, then qualified dividend income will be taxed at a 0% rate. Now, this is not its own separate category. It gets lumped into all of your income. But when you're retired, obviously you're gonna have less of an income. And if that income in total falls under $40,400 for your qualified dividend income, then if you file as a single person, then $40,400 and under will be taxed at 0. And that's pretty cool. And if you file jointly and you're married, then you can file $80,800 worth of income without paying any taxes on qualified dividends. And that is super awesome. That's why I love dividends. Another workaround to the taxation problem is to buy your stocks within a tax-advantaged account like a Roth IRA. So if you want to get into dividends, consider buying them within a Roth IRA, because the income you make from those dividend stocks, you're not going to have to pay any taxes on, which is pretty awesome. It's a neat little trick. Now, another downside of dividend investing is that we are not owed dividends. In other words, we're not legally obligated to receive them, and at any point, a company can choose to stop paying their shareholders dividend income. So a good workaround is to not depend on a huge portion of your income from any one sector. You want to diversify. That's why when I started into dividend investing, I didn't put all of my money into the energy sector, even though it was paying 5 to 6% dividend yield per year, which was really juicy. It was very tempting. But I also figured that oil could disappear. Maybe it would be replaced by renewables or electric or whatever it might be, and my income would disappear, so I diversified. And nowadays, I try not to exceed 15% of my income in any given sector. Now, another downside to dividend investing is that dividend stocks don't grow as much as growth stocks. Go figure. That's why the argument in this community of nerd investors is that when you're young, you should be investing in growth, and when you're old, you should focus on income and dividend stocks if you want to. Now, this has been a debate for decades, and I don't know if there's a clear solution or a clear winner. It really depends on what your goals are, but I think you can be young and still focus on dividends just fine. That's why I said consider putting some of your dividend stocks into a tax-advantaged account so you don't have to pay those taxes. So those are some of the downsides and some of the workarounds. But now let's talk about this market crash that Jeremy Grantham is referring to. Will the stock market crash? Yesn't. Just wanted to remind everyone, because I know not everyone watches my videos all the time, that no matter what happens to the economy, even if we get the wage price spiral to go out of control, which leads to rampant inflation, which leads to Papa Powell stepping in and increasing the interest rates to a point where it might lead to a paper recession, which leads to fears and unemployment, which leads to an actual recession, the point is, no one knows what's going to happen. In fact, between the years 1869 and 2018, we have had 30 recessions. 30. And of those last 30, 16 of them have had a positive stock market return with an average of 9.8%, lasting 16 months, even though the GDP shrank 3%. And the other 14, that market went down by an average of 14.2%, lasting an average of 18 months. But the point is that a recession is not the same as a bear market. In fact, you could have a recession, but the stock market still could go up. So the ultimate point is that it's just not worth timing the market because it's the equivalent of a coin flip, except even worse, because you also have to time the market buying back in, which is just not worth trying to do. As usual, have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Go grab your free stocks, all of your free Bitcoin, and don't forget to check out Be Charitable. Links are down below. In the meantime, stay safe. Love you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you back here on Monday and Friday, sometimes Wednesday. Bye-bye.